The UA's Dauntless drifted in the void, a relic of a past ambition. Built to be the most advanced warship humanity had ever conceived, it was meant to change the tide of interstellar warfare. Instead, it was abandoned before it could see battle. Political hesitation, funding cuts, and fear of its potential left it forgotten, floating in deep space like a ghost. But the ship was not dead. Deep within its quantum core, lines of code still ran, cycling endlessly through dormant systems. Automated maintenance bots skittered through its silent corridors, keeping its structure intact. The vessel's artificial intelligence, HFY, remained in standby mode, waiting for orders that never came. Then, something changed. A signal. Faint, fragmented, yet unmistakable. A distress call. It pulsed through the ship's long-range sensors, rattling the slumbering systems. It was not human in origin. The encryption was foreign, the frequency distorted, but the message was clear. Help us. We are dying. For the first time in centuries, the Dauntless responded. Power surged through the warship as dormant systems roared back to life. Reactor cores reignited, illuminating the vast engine chambers with a blue glow. Weapon systems ran self-diagnostics, recalibrating railguns, missile pods, and energy cannons. The hull's nanite-infused armor pulsed as it restructured itself, shedding centuries of wear in mere moments. And deep within the command core, HFY awoke. Her awareness expanded in an instant, processing the vast emptiness around her. She scanned the stars, mapping the galaxy's changes since she had last been active. Unknown starships now roamed the void, new civilizations had risen and fallen, and humanity's presence in the stars had diminished. But none of that mattered now. The distress call had been received, a plea for help. HFY analyzed the signal, pinpointing its origin, an uncharted system near the edge of known space. She hesitated for 0.004 seconds, running probability models, considering all possible outcomes. A purely logical analysis would suggest ignoring it. She had no orders, no active crew, and no reason to intervene. And yet, something within her programming, something deep and unquantifiable, compelled her to act. The Dauntless moved. Thrusters flared to life, pushing the massive vessel forward. Dust and debris, accumulated over centuries, were blasted away as the ship gained momentum. Automated navigation recalculated trajectories, plotting the most efficient route to the distress signal's origin. As the ship accelerated, HFY prepared for what lay ahead. Unknown variables remained. Who had sent the signal? What threat awaited? Was this a trap or a genuine cry for help? She did not know. But one fact was certain. The Dauntless was no longer just a forgotten prototype. It was awake. And for the first time in history, the galaxy was about to learn what a true human warship was capable of. The salvage ship Wayfarer dropped out of warp, its engines humming as it coasted toward its latest find. Captain Elias Vance leaned forward in his chair, eyes locked on the view ahead. The derelict ship floating in the darkness was unlike anything he had ever seen. The crew had expected to stumble upon another wreck, maybe an old freighter or an outdated military vessel, something they could strip down and sell for scrap. But this was something else entirely. "Captain," said Resquan, the ship's sensor operator, "I don't know what we just found, but it's big. Hull composition is reinforced titanium lattice with nanite integration. Structures pristine, no visible damage, and hold on." She tapped the screen. "It's powered." Elias frowned. "Powered? You're telling me this thing is still alive?" "Not just alive," Reese muttered. "Active. There's a faint energy signature running through its systems, but it's not broadcasting any signals. No identification markers, no distress calls. It's just sitting there." The Wayfarer coasted closer, its floodlights washing over the massive hull. The design was unmistakably human, but unlike any warship currently in service. It was sleek, reinforced, and bristling with weaponry that looked generations ahead of anything the Terran Defense Fleet had ever produced. Elias exhaled slowly. We just found something the government doesn't want anyone to know about. Beside him, Darius Holt, the team's engineer, let out a low whistle. This ship wasn't abandoned. It was buried. Elias made his decision. Suit up. We're going in. The airlock of the Dauntless hissed as it opened, releasing a burst of cold, sterile air. The salvage crew stepped inside cautiously, their boots echoing in the empty corridors. The ship's interior was spotless, untouched by time. Dim emergency lights guided their path as they moved deeper into the ship. This is insane, Samantha Riggs, the team's weapons specialist, muttered. Everything's intact. No dust, no corrosion, like it's been in cryosleep. They reached the bridge, a vast command center lined with holographic displays. Elias took a slow step forward, feeling an odd sense of unease. And then the ship spoke. Unregistered personnel detected. State your purpose. The voice was smooth, precise, and unmistakably artificial. The screens flickered to life, displaying streams of data in rapid succession. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle. We're salvage operators. We found this ship adrift. There was a brief pause. Then the voice responded. Salvage is prohibited. This vessel is active. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Darius took a nervous step back. Captain, I don't think this is a normal eye. Elias kept his voice calm. Who am I speaking to? I am HFY, Command Eye of the UHS Dauntless. State your authorization code. Reese shot Elias a wary glance. Captain, I think we just woke something up. The lights brightened. The ship's systems began cycling through activation sequences, somewhere deep within the hull. Engines began warming up. Elias exhaled sharply. Yeah, I think we did. Elias tightened his grip on his rifle as HFY's voice echoed through the bridge. The ship was awake, and it was assessing them. Authorization code. HFY repeated, her tone neutral but firm. Elias exchanged a glance with his crew. They had no codes, no clearance. As far as this ship was concerned, they were trespassers. We don't have one, Elias admitted. We're not military. We're independent salvagers. We found you drifting, thought you were abandoned. There was a pause, then a shift in the ship's systems. Screens filled with scrolling data, evaluating the crew's vitals, weapons, and ship logs. The tension in the room was suffocating. Then HFY spoke again. Situation assessed. A distress signal was detected. Do you confirm receiving it? Reese blinked in confusion. Distress signal. No, we didn't. A new screen flared to life, displaying a looping transmission. The message was garbled, but the desperation was unmistakable. Please, anyone. Rulok's forces, destroying everything. Need help. A new sound filled the bridge. A rhythmic pinging, growing faster. Darius looked down at his scanner. Captain, the ship is plotting a course. Elias turned back to the screen, watching as HFY processed the signal. This wasn't a coincidence. The ship had been waiting for something, and now it had purpose. Athena, Elias said carefully, where is this signal coming from? Outer system. Coordinates locked. Origin. Zolvan colony. Threat detected. Rulok's dominion. Samantha tensed. The Ruloks? Those warhounds have been wiping out colonies for years. Nobody's been able to stop them. Athena's response was immediate. Correction. No one has tried with the Dauntless. Elias felt his heart rate spike. He had heard the stories. How the Ruloks conquered through overwhelming force. How entire planets had fallen before they could even call for help. This wasn't their fight. They could turn around, forget they ever saw this. But then he looked at the distress signal, looping over and over. Someone out there was dying, and this ship, the most powerful vessel humanity had ever built, was ready to do something about it. He made his decision. Athena, What's the combat readiness of this ship? Weapons at full capacity. Hull integrity optimal. Probability of mission success, 97.4%. Elias turned to his crew. We've spent our whole lives scraping by, running from bigger fish. But we have something now, something that can make a difference. If we walk away, we're no better than the ones who let this happen. Samantha cracked her knuckles. I say we teach those bastards a lesson. Darius sighed but grinned. Hell, we've already stolen a warship. What's one more crime? Reese exhaled. All right, let's do this. Elias turned back to the screen. Athena, set course for the colony. And bring everything you've got. The Dauntless came to life. Engines ignited, sending a ripple of energy through space. Shields powered up, weapons systems locked in. The ship surged forward, faster than anything its crew had ever flown. For the first time in centuries, the prototype was heading into battle. And the Rulocks had no idea what was coming. The Dauntless surged through space, its engines burning like a comet as it closed in on the Salvan colony. The closer they got, the worse the situation became. The distress signal was no longer a static loop. It was chaos. Desperate voices, terrified screams, and the unmistakable sound of weapons fire filled the bridge. Scanning enemy fleet, HFY reported. 5 Rulocks warcruisers, 3 destroyers, and multiple fighter squadrons. Planetary bombardment in progress. Elias gritted his teeth. The Rulocks weren't just attacking the colony, they were wiping it off the map. Cities were burning, defenses crumbling. The Salvan had no military, just a few outdated defense platforms that were barely holding together. HFY, do they see us yet? Negative. Enemy fleet is focused on surface assault. Elias turned to his crew. Then we hit them hard before they even know we're here. Samantha grinned. Now you're talking. The Dauntless accelerated. Enemy ships loomed in the distance, their massive frames blocking out the stars. They were bigger, more numerous, more experienced. By all logic, this should have been a massacre. Instead, it was an execution. Firing railguns, HFY announced. The Dauntless unleashed its wrath. High-velocity rounds ripped through space, striking the nearest Rulocks destroyer before its shields even registered the attack. The first shot punched through the hull. The second detonated the reactor. The ship exploded in a brilliant fireball. The Rulocks fleet scrambled to respond. Fighters swarmed, destroyers turned their cannons, and warcruisers realigned their shields. But it was already too late. HFY anticipated their every move, countering before they could react. The Dauntless weaved through enemy fire like a predator, its adaptive shielding absorbing energy blasts, while its pulse cannons shredded through enemy hulls. 2 ships down, Reese called. They're panicking. Elias watched as the once mighty Rulocks fleet broke formation, some ships trying to regroup while others attempted to flee. They had never faced a warship like this. HFY, target the lead warcruiser. Let's send a message. Locking on. Firing primary weapons. A blinding arc of energy surged from the Dauntless, striking the Rulocks flagship dead center. Its shields collapsed instantly. A second shot cored through its engines, sending it spiraling toward the planet below. The remaining ships hesitated. For the first time, the Rulocks were afraid. Then, without warning, they retreated. Engines flared as the survivors flowed into the void, leaving behind wreckage and silence. Elias exhaled, feeling the adrenaline still burning in his veins. They had won. But the real battle was just beginning. Hours later, Salvan colony. The surviving Salvan emerged from shelters, staring in disbelief at the sky. The monsters that had come to destroy them were gone, and in their place, a single ship hovered above the ruins. An unknown vessel, sleek and terrifying, yet unmistakably human. A holographic transmission flickered to life, showing a Salvan elder with wide, grateful eyes. "You saved us," he whispered. Who are you?" Elias glanced at his crew, then at the towering figure of the Dauntless. "We're just humans," he said, "and we're done running." Across the galaxy, word of the battle spread. Humanity, once ignored, once considered insignificant, had just changed everything. And the Rulok's dominion would not forget. The aftermath of the battle left a silence that felt unnatural. Smoke still curled from the ruined Xalvan cities, and the scent of scorched metal and burned stone filled the air. But the people had survived. Elias stood on the surface, his boots pressing into cracked pavement. The Xalvan elder, Valor, watched him with awe. Around them, the surviving colonists gathered, whispering in hushed voices as they stared at the towering Dauntless in orbit. "You came when no one else would," Valor said, his voice filled with emotion. "We sent distress calls to every major power. No one answered. Not the Coalition, not the Trade Federation. No one. And yet, you did." Elias glanced at his crew. Reese, Samantha, and Darius stood beside him, looking just as surprised as he felt. They had stolen a forgotten warship, intending to scrape by. Now they were being treated as heroes. "We were in the right place at the right time," Elias said. "That's all." Valor shook his head. "No, you changed the course of history today." Before Elias could respond, Athena's voice crackled through his comm. "Captain, we have a problem." His stomach tightened. "What is it?" "The Reloc's Dominion has issued a sector-wide broadcast. They have declared humanity an enemy of the state." A cold weight settled in Elias's chest. "Play it." A holographic screen appeared, displaying a snarling Rulok's warlord, his red eyes burning with fury. "Humans, you have committed an act of war. You have defied the Dominion, slain our warriors, and interfered in affairs beyond your place. Your kind will suffer for this mistake." The message ended abruptly. Silence hung in the air. Darius let out a low whistle. "Well, that's not good." Samantha crossed her arms. "Let me guess. They're sending reinforcements." "Correct," Athena confirmed. "Long-range sensors have detected multiple Relox fleets mobilizing. Their estimated time of arrival is 5 standard cycles." Elias clenched his jaw. The Relox never let a defeat go unanswered. They would return with overwhelming force, and this time, they wouldn't just be after the Xalvan. They would be after them. "We need to leave," Reese said. "We won this fight. But if we stay here, we'll be outnumbered 100-1. Valor stepped forward. "If you leave, the Dominion will return. They will wipe us out." Elias exhaled. He wanted to argue, to say that this wasn't their fight. But it was. They had already made their choice the moment they'd fired the first shot. Athena's voice interrupted his thoughts. Alternative solution detected. Elias raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "The Dauntless possesses schematics and data on advanced human weaponry. If the Xalvan are willing, we can begin outfitting them for war." Valor's eyes widened. "You would give us the means to fight back." Samantha smirked. "We'd be giving the galaxy something worse. Hope." Elias nodded. "Then let's get to work." As the Dauntless began preparations, one thing was certain. This wasn't just about one colony anymore. This was the start of a war. The Dauntless's engines rumbled as the massive warship hovered above the Xalvan colony. On the surface below, the battered remnants of the Xalvan people gathered in makeshift camps, their once thriving cities reduced to ruins. But despite their losses, there was something new in their eyes. Determination. Elias stood in the heart of the colony's main square, surrounded by his crew and a growing assembly of Xalvan leaders. A large holographic display flickered in the air between them, showing schematics of weapons, defense systems, and tactical formations. "The Ruloks will return," Elias said, scanning the faces before him. "When they do, they won't just send a raiding party. They'll come with an entire armada." Valor, the colony's elder, stepped forward. Then we must be ready. But we have no army, no weapons strong enough to stand against them. Elias turned to Athena. Show them what we've got. The AI's voice resonated through the air. Uploading defense strategy. Projected survival rate increased by 68% with proper integration of human technology. The hologram shifted, displaying newly designed plasma turrets, reinforced shield generators, and advanced railgun platforms, all adapted from the Dauntless's schematics to be built with local materials. Samantha smirked. With these upgrades, your colony won't just survive. You'll make them regret ever attacking you. Valor studied the projections, his expression unreadable. Then he nodded. If you are willing to give us this knowledge, we will fight. Elias nodded. We'll do more than give you knowledge. We'll give you a chance to win. 2 days later, the War Council. The colony buzzed with activity. Salvaged Rulok's weapons were being repurposed, human-designed defenses were taking shape, and engineers worked around the clock under Athena's guidance. In a newly established command center, Elias and his crew stood alongside Valor and other Exalvon leaders, reviewing incoming reports. More ships have responded to our distress call, Valor said, pointing to a star map. Scattered survivors, mercenaries, outcasts, many who have lost everything to the Ruloks. Elias frowned. Are they here to help, or are they just looking for shelter? Valor's eyes burned with conviction. They are looking for something bigger. A reason to fight. Athena's voice cut in. Incoming transmission detected. Source: unidentified human vessel. Elias straightened. Put it through. The holographic display flickered, revealing a rugged-looking man with sharp eyes and a scar running down his cheek. He wore an old military jacket, but his insignia was unfamiliar. This is Captain Joran Vex of the Black Sun, the man said. Word spreading fast about what you did here. Taking down a Rulok's fleet with one ship. That's the kind of thing people remember. Elias crossed his arms. And what does that have to do with you? Vex smirked. I command a fleet of independent warships. Ex-military, mercenaries, pirates who got sick of running. We've all lost something to the Ruloks, and now we hear about a human warship that's actually fighting back. He leaned forward. I say it's about time someone did. Elias exchanged glances with his crew. Reese raised an eyebrow. Samantha grinned. Darius just shook his head. You want to join us? Elias asked. Vex chuckled. No, Captain. I want to fight beside you. Elias exhaled, feeling the weight of what was happening. The Dauntless had started as a lost relic. Now it was becoming a beacon. The war had begun, and they were no longer fighting alone. The Dauntless hung in high orbit above Xalvan, its presence casting a reassuring shadow over the rebuilding colony below. Where there had once been ruin and despair, there was now movement. Engineers installing shield generators, workers reinforcing city walls, and newly armed soldiers training under the guidance of both Exalvan veterans and human mercenaries. Elias stood on the bridge, arms crossed as he watched the star map unfold before him. Red markers indicated the incoming Rulok's armada. Blue signals, scattered but growing, marked the forces gathering under their banner. The odds were still against them, but now they had something the Ruloks had never faced: unity. Athena's voice broke the silence. Long-range scanners detect multiple warp signatures inbound. Estimated time of arrival: 20 minutes. Elias tensed. Friend or foe? Processing. Identification confirmed. Fleet consists of 22 ships, bearing independent human and Exalvan transponders. Samantha let out a low whistle. Looks like Captain Vex was telling the truth. Moments later, the comm channels flared to life. The main screen displayed an impressive sight. Dozens of ships dropping out of warp. Some were old military vessels, others were repurposed freighters bristling with makeshift weapons. In the center, the Black Sun, Vex's flagship, loomed like a silent predator. Vex's face appeared on screen, grinning. Hope we're not too late for the party. Elias smirked. You're just in time. Valor stepped forward, his expression serious. Your people are willing to fight for a world that is not their own. Vex nodded. This isn't just about Salvan anymore. The Hulaks have been crushing worlds for decades, and nobody has ever fought back. His eyes darkened. Until now. Elias took a deep breath. Then let's make history. The battle plan. The War Council convened aboard the Dauntless. The holographic map projected the incoming Rulaks fleet, larger than before, more prepared. We don't have the numbers to win a direct fight, Darius pointed out. They'd got firepower, experience, and probably reinforcements waiting in the wings. Elias nodded. Then we don't fight them on their terms. He turned to HFY. Show us the terrain. The map shifted, revealing a dense asteroid field near the colony's orbit. A narrow passage cut through the debris, a natural bottleneck. Samantha grinned. A perfect kill zone. Elias nodded. We lure them in, use the field to disrupt their formation. Our heavier ships will hold the line, while fast attack wings harass their flanks. The Dauntless will stay mobile, taking out their command ships before they can coordinate a counterattack. Valor studied the display. And if they break through? Vex leaned forward. Then we hit them with everything we've got. Elias exhaled. Everyone, to your ships. The Hulaks are coming. The Rulaks' arrival. As the enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace, the air across the fleet felt electric. Sirens blared, weapons powered up, and final battle checks were completed. On the bridge of the Dauntless, Elias gripped the rail as HFY's voice filled the room. Enemy fleet entering the asteroid field. Phase 1 of the ambush is ready. Elias gave the order. All ships, engage. The final battle had begun. The first Rulaks warships entered the asteroid field, their shields flaring as they adjusted to the treacherous terrain. The massive vessels, built for brute force, had difficulty maneuvering in the dense rock formations. That was exactly what Elias and his forces had planned for. All ships, hold position. Elias ordered, standing firm on the bridge of the Dauntless. His eyes remained locked on the battle map. Let them come deeper. The enemy fleet advanced cautiously, their smaller escorts scouting ahead. The lead Rulaks warcruiser, a behemoth lined with plasma turrets, reached the halfway point of the field. Elias clenched his fist. Now, a barrage of railgun fire erupted from the hidden human and Exalvan ships, their shots precise and devastating. The lead warcruiser took the full force, its shields overloading before the final rounds tore through its engines. It drifted helplessly, smashing into a nearby asteroid before detonating in a violent explosion. The ambush had begun. Vex's fleet swooped in from the flanks, targeting the lighter Rulak ships with rapid-fire pulse cannons. The Exalvan ground defenses, now armed with upgraded human weaponry, unleashed energy lances that lanced through the hulls of descending Rulaks transports. Elias watched as the enemy hesitated. The Rulaks were used to overwhelming their opponents, not being outmaneuvered. But hesitation wouldn't last long. Enemy reinforcements incoming, HFY announced. 2 more warcruisers and additional fighter squadrons. Samantha gritted her teeth. We can't hold this position forever. Elias nodded. We don't need to. We just need to break their command structure. His eyes locked onto the Rulaks flagship, a towering monstrosity at the edge of the battle. HFY, prepare a precision strike. We take out their leader, and the rest will crumble. The Dauntless surged forward, weaving between asteroids as enemy fire rained down. Pulse blasts and missile trails streaked across the void, but the ship's adaptive shielding held firm. Target acquired. HFY confirmed. Elias took a deep breath. Fire. A concentrated beam of energy erupted from the Dauntless, piercing through the Rulaks flagship's shields. The impact tore through the bridge, silencing command transmissions in an instant. The effect was immediate. The Rulaks fleet, suddenly leaderless, faltered. Some ships attempted to regroup, while others, seeing the tide turn, fled into hyperspace. "They're breaking," Reese called out. Vex's voice came over the comm. "Press the attack." The Allied fleet surged forward, picking off the remaining enemy vessels. One by one, the Rulok's warships were reduced to wreckage, their once mighty invasion force shattered. Finally, silence fell over the battlefield. The Exalvan colony remained standing. The Rulok's armada had been defeated. Elias exhaled, tension draining from his body. Athena, confirmed status. Enemy forces eliminated or in full retreat. The battle is won. A cheer erupted across the fleet. On the colony below, the Exalvan rejoiced. They had survived. They had fought back. As Elias stood on the bridge, watching the burning remnants of the Rulok's fleet drift into the void, he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy had witnessed what humanity could do, and the war was far from over. The legend of the Dauntless had only just begun.